Oh, good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm Lauren Polly, like I said. My beautiful book, The Other Side of Bipolar, I'm going to highlight it tonight with some stories. My story basically is moving beyond my bipolar diagnosis. The stigma, the shame, the secrecy, I know that's been a big theme today, that I lived in for years and years and years. And I'd like to go over two main turning points that really took my life in a whole new direction. I could have lived most of my life as the overdrugged teen that I was from 14 to 20, but I was so blessed to actually meet forward-thinking doctors, therapists that worked outside of the box with some quite unorthodox and random techniques that work like magic, and was able to actually reclaim the beauty of who I actually am. And that's my invitation above anything, is all of us have an inner beauty to us. And that's not just outer beauty, that's a beauty of being. That's a connection you have, that's the heart connection that you have. And it gets clouded with shadows. Things get intense, things get loud, you get lost in other people's worlds, especially if you were oversensitive, if you were empathic. And if you have a heightened awareness, not just of the physical world, but of the non-physical world as well, which was the strength that I found taking those wrongnesses and actually flipping them into usable gifts. So I was diagnosed when I was 14 after a suicide attempt. My aunt is bipolar, so as soon as the doctor heard that, I immediately got grouped in because it runs in the family. It's kind of interesting. I had a rough couple of months, obviously leading up to trying to commit suicide, but the harder part of the struggle was actually going through the Western medical system. I went through more traditional approaches at first that really, really locked me up. I just remember being 14, sitting on the psychiatrist's sofa, paisley, old, kind of would suffocate you as you sat down, and as they talked, your self-esteem would go with it. Unfortunately, I was told that I would never be able to excel. Stress would always be a trigger for me. Trying to actually maintain relationships would be hard, trying to hold down a job. The shoe could basically fall at any moment, and there was no hope to ever get out of that. It was a lifelong sentence. I lived 6 years of my life like that. And I know this is kind of more of a dramatic example to some of you and how you're living, but think of a box that you've been put in for yourself. Anytime you've been given a label, anytime you've been defined, even anytime that you were like listening really intently to someone and they said, oh wow, you're really shy. And you go, I didn't know I was shy. I thought I was just listening and receiving you. That's a label, that's a box. Guess what? That carries forward. The more defined that we get and the more we allow labels to define us and our sense of worth, and most importantly, where we can go in the future. That is, to me, one of the most detrimental things we can do. So my first turning point came when I was 20. I actually flipped open the phone book back in the day, no Google at that time, looking for my brand new psychiatrist after moving to Florida, and page after page after page of just doctor after doctor, one jumped out. It said holistic psychiatry. Now this was in 2000 before holistic was like a buzzword. It used to not be wellness care, self-care, that kind of conversation. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I want it. And he was the first doctor in 6 years who talked about self-care, wellness, diet, exercise, finding a school program that actually played to my strengths so that I could have a career that I loved and actually do what it is that I'm born to do, which is actually gift and touch people and finding that strength to do it. More than anything, though, he gave me one amazing magical gift. He gave me hope. And being 6 years plus without any kind of light at the end of the tunnel, and it wasn't even like the far off reaching kind of hope that maybe someday if I just keep going, it was that kind of hope that got lit inside your belly. That little fire that started to go, and every time you made a choice in the direction that actually served yourself, you'd fan that flame. And before I know it, as soon as I kept fanning that flame, that warmth would envelop me. And I knew that was the direction I had to go with my life. All of my medical choices, all of my life choices were guided by that. And that was really the game changer for me. Look for the hope, look for the lightness, look for that embracing sense of home. You'll find your way there. Hard stop. Yeah. Turning point number 2. Even with the fanning of the flame, even with the hope, even with me moving forward, getting my master's degree, I work as a medical speech language pathologist. I've worked in the intensive care unit for years and years. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a meditation teacher. I just kept adding all of these things to my bucket. Never supposed to happen. Never supposed to be able to hold any of this. All this outward perfection, I kind of got lost in another kind of insanity. Perfection, people pleasing, and the love of normalcy. If I could be normal, if I could be perfect, ain't nobody gonna call me crazy. No way. And my life became about that. And it was funny because my life would get bigger and expand and that hope would flame. And then there was that voice in my head. There's something inherently wrong with you. Even with all of this other stuff, the shoe could still drop. It was the doctor's voice. And he meant well. You know, that's modern day treatment sometimes. You do have to warn people. But the messages and how they're delivered, especially to a young 14-year-old, we have to look at how that's actually handled in a deeper, more compassionate way. So having that voice behind me constantly, even with this outward success, I took myself back to therapy, something I hadn't done in years. This time not holistic psychology, energetic psychology. Game changer number 2. My 2 conversations in my business, holistic, wellness, treating the whole being. Number 2, the energetics beneath it. Again, when you are aware not just of the physical world, you know when you walk in a room and you shut down. That ain't you. That's the people in the room. That's the energy you're picking up on. You didn't have that to begin with. You stand next to someone, a cloud comes over, theirs, not yours. But our awareness of the non-physical, the energetics that lie beneath it all, that's really what unlocked me. And that's truly what I kind of feel the more and more we dig into the fact that this world is energetic, that there is more beneath the eye, and that you may be actually engaging and handling a lot more than you're giving yourself credit for, will actually allow you to take your power back in a different way. So just look for yourself. What is your most judgeable offense? What is your worst asset? What's the deep, dark secret? What's the one thing that will never, ever, 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 ever change for you? And I'm going to pose you a question with that this beautiful lady asked me from a beautiful system called Access Consciousness. What if that wrongness is actually a strongness? And not just a strongness of like, oh, that can be in my space. I'm okay with that. I've accepted it. But a usable asset, your best personal asset for creating an authentic life for yourself, and one to actually have the change in the world you're born to make. Everything that drove me down crazy train when I was younger, I use in my business to this day. Everything that actually drove me down that train when I was younger, I use in my hospital job. With my patients, I manage the department now. I run the show using these non-physical gifts. And the ability to harness the strength of that and use it is a game changer. It allows you to actually reclaim yourself and your power in a whole different way.